Yeah, any good news welcome at this point, right? Well, the news is that folks on Social Security will not have to file a tax return in order to get their federal stimulus check. Those are expected to be mailed out here within the next week or so. And the Treasury Department officials there announcing that Americans on Social Security or disability will no longer have to file taxes.
So more financial relief is on the way for millions of low-income households. The lawmakers have actually agreed to send out stimulus aid to those being impacted by the crisis. So Americans may actually qualify for monthly checks of up to $100. And with inflation at record highs, Americans are feeling the pain of higher prices. It's especially true when it comes to filling their gas tanks. And as of June 22, the average price of a gallon of gas was more than $5. In an effort to provide some sort of financial relief, the federal government has actually come up with several short-term options for assisting the public, while also addressing the larger short-term and issue of inflation at hand. Some of these ideas include tapping into emergency oil reserves as well as federal gas tax holidays to encourage more production out of the oil companies. One of the leading proposals at the moment is the Gas Rebate Act of 2022. It has been dubbed the gas stimulus. Similar to the stimulus checks that were sent out during the crisis, the gas stimulus check would be a series of checks sent to qualifying Americans. Now folks, listen to this. Each payment would be of actually $100, with an additional $100 for households and dependents. And for each month where the price of gas was higher than $4 a gallon, the eligibility requirements are less than $75,000 for single filers and less than $150,000 for joint filers. Many individual states have taken matters into their own hands and approved similar measures for their residents. For instance, in California, gas costs are considerably more than in other states. These are the plans to give relief checks of up to $1,000 for a qualifying family. In another group in North Carolina, the state senators are proposing giving every local licensed adult a one-time $200 stimulus payment. So the Bureau of Economic Analysis also reported today that an economic gauge that the Federal Reserve follows closely showed that inflation stayed strong in September, but mostly with expectations. So folks, the core personal consumption expenditures and price increase over 0.5% from the previous month and accelerated to 5% over the past year. It includes the cost of food and energy, and that rose by 0.3%. So this report comes as the Fed is prepared to enact its sixth interest rate increase of the year at its policy meeting next week, in an effort to combat inflation running at its fastest peak since the 40 years. And the Fed has been raising rates increasingly fast, and with increases totaling 3 percentage points thus far, Fed officials watch Friday's data points closely for clues and where costs are headed, particularly with a tight labor market in which there are one job every available worker. Americans just continue to pay more at the grocery store for surging food inflation shows no signs of slowing down, and that's something that's confusing a lot of people. Prices could keep rising well into next year, and experts are concerned about a threat of a recession coupled with high food prices, which rose last month even as the cost of gas, cars, and other products fell. And while the Fed interest rates are slowing demand for certain discretionary goods, people will always need to buy food, limiting the impact of monetary policy on prices. And according to The Hill, this issue with the supply chain is a problem, and farmers and food processors have reported difficulties, and something needs to be done. President Biden
said the negotiations between the legislature and the governor delayed the timeline of the payments.
Exactly who would get the rebates and how much would they be. And so they finally came to a reasonable conclusion, but it was too late to distribute this money in the summer.
Depending on your income and your tax filing status, you could get anywhere from $200 to $1,050. You must have filed taxes in California in 2020, and you must still live in California now.
There are about 3 million Californians who did not file income taxes.
According to the IRS, if you collect certain benefits, including SSDI, you may see the money starting today. The IRS says it received the data it needed from the Social Security Administration last week for people receiving the following: Social Security retirement, survivor or disability, supplemental security income, and Railroad Retirement Board beneficiaries who did not file a 20...
Here is an important fourth stimulus check update, information about the Social Security benefits, and an increase in SSI and SSDI. Here's the most important information that I want you to know. November checks are beginning to go out. Monthly checks are beginning to go out this month. Inflation relief checks will now be worth up to $2,000 for eligible households. And the Federal Reserve has also officially announced a new plan to tackle inflation. The plan would also help avoid any economic recession. To help California residents battle inflation, the state has also started sending out the middle class tax refund payments early last month. So some residents are still wanting and waiting for the one-time payments, and the state has issued a new guidance as to when they will receive them. Middle-class tax refund payments have been sent out to Californians to help with the rising price of gas and the cost of living adjustments. Californians can expect to receive $200 to $1,000 as well. According to California representatives Jim Costa, for instance, the first round of middle-class tax refund and payments have been sent out last month on the 7th, and this month upcoming next on the 25th. And those who are eligible for relief will receive their paychecks via direct deposit or mail debit card and stimulus checks as that. The State of California Franchise Tax Board has also explained on its website that if you're eligible, you will automatically receive a payment, which is expected to be issued between October of this year and January of next year. First of all, Californians who received the first of second going to stimulus are also expected to receive the middle-class tax refund direct payments as well, and this is all through direct deposit. The direct deposit recipients who have changed their banking information since filing a tax return will receive a debit card, and it'll be mailed to you in December, and also in January of next month. Now, the Federal Reserve also approved a fourth straight rate hike of 0.75 of a percentage point this week as part of its battle bringing down the soaring inflation that is affecting so many households. The supersized hike, everybody, brings the central bank's benchmark lending rate to a new target range of 3.75 to even 4%. Now, that's the highest the Fed has raised interest rates since January of 2008. The decision came at the end of policy meeting of the Federal Open Market Committee and marks the Fed's toughest policy move since the 80s, and it will likely just deepen the economic pain for so many more people. And so in a news conference following the meeting, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said, "The inflation picture has become a lot more and more challenging over the course of this year, and this means we have the policy to be more restrictive, and that narrows the path to a soft landing." Now, Powell also reiterated his decision and his commitment to bring down inflation and his stance that persistent entrenched inflation will only cause greater economic pain than a recession. So everybody, the Fed officials have introduced and included the new section in a statement. The Federal Open Market Committee anticipates that ongoing increases in the target range will be appropriate. It's in order to sustain a stance of monetary policy that is sufficiently restrictive to return inflation to a 2% over time. Now, the new language could also pave the way for an eventual easing in interest rates, as it acknowledges that monetary policy may also be effectively cooling the economy, as economic data indicates strong growth. However, some inflationary pressures are easing. Wages and salaries rose by a percentage point in the third quarter, down from also 1.6% in the second quarter. And through it all, the job market has remained tight. Job openings unexpectedly surged in September, indicating that there are about 1.9 job openings for every available worker.
Well, my friend, Senator from Delaware, is on the floor. In Texas, we are known for oil and gas production, but the truth is, and what I think we really should be known for, is for an all-of-the-above energy policy. We produce more electricity from wind turbines than any other state in the country, and that's a surprise to a number of people. But one reason for an all-of-the-above energy policy is that